What if I told you there was a real place where you could travel back in time? Bold Street in Liverpool has been known for its time slips. And if you're just joining us, time slips are when you travel out of your timeline into the past or future. In 1996, an off-duty police officer was shopping with his wife on Bold Street when she went into Dylan's bookstore. Frank followed after her, but was almost struck by a car in the middle of the road. When he gathered his bearings and looked up, though, everything looked different, and Dylan's wasn't there.
Today we're looking at some TikTok glitch in the Matrix stories.
Apparently, the phone that was on airplane mode since I think 2014, that phone was back in 2021 or 2023. I'm sorry. That phone, so we're in 2024. The phone was dated back to 2023, meaning time has actually sped up.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you to all the channel members for support. If you guys see this video right now, like the video, and if you haven't already, remember to smash that subscribe button. Let's just jump right into the video. Let's go.
He caught a major glitch in the Matrix. Watch this.
I'm scouting for turkeys, and it's like between 6:55 and 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna take a good video. The sky is really pretty, the farms look really pretty, and as I'm taking this video, the sky done something weird, like it glitched, and I wasn't looking through the phone. Like, I was scanning the field, but I was like looking at the field, and I seen the sky do it, and I was like, what the world? And I stopped the video and I went back, and my phone caught it. I don't know what it is. It's weird for sure. I'll show you guys a video. Check it out. Tell me what you think. It's kind of weird.
To me, it kind of looked like his camera was just readjusting. I'm not too sure. I don't think necessarily that was like a glitch. If anything, it might be a camera glitch.
Favorite song by her? Is that that's like a impossible question, I think. It's Beyonce? Like, I'm gonna have to go with everything.
Our first caress.
This guy made a video about putting his phone on airplane mode in December of 2014 or something like that. And then he finally took it off airplane mode this year or a couple years ago. And he compared it to the current time period that we're in now. And this is what happened. So apparently the phone that was on airplane mode since I think 2014, that phone was back in 2021 or 2023. I'm sorry. That phone, so we're in 2024. The phone was dated back to 2023, meaning time has actually sped up. That's what I've been saying. I've made several videos about how it does not feel right. It feels like the time has sped up. The time clock has been moving. It seems like how Jesus said it is the last hour. It seems like we are in the seconds, and it's looking like somebody's fast forwarding time from the outside of us so we can't really see it. If you fast forward a movie, the people playing the movie can't feel the fact that they're being fast forwarded, but they are. In the same way, the creator can fast forward time where we can't feel it moving faster. But this whole thing, whether you want to think it's real or fake, this whole thing is kind of crazy because that means that we have lost over a year of time. because of how fast it's. And think about that. A year is a long time. A year is a long time. So this is crazy. If you haven't seen this video, go check it out. It's Gabriel Diaz the Third. Go check it out because this is pretty insane. You need to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. Time does feel like it has been getting a lot faster, but they do say like after 21 years old, like time feels a lot different for you. Like everything in your life feels a lot faster after 21.
Guys, I stumbled across something really strange on TikTok last night, and I don't know what to do with this information. So this lady posted this video about like a glitch in the Matrix thing where like her towel disappeared, right? But that's not the weird thing. I once found 2 human molar teeth in the washing machine. It freaked me out. I have no idea where they came from. So I read that sparks my interest. I'm like, what the fuck? But wait, I found one on my living room floor about 20 years ago. I lived alone. Okay, weird. That's a weird coincidence, you know, that both of these people found a human tooth. Okay, now that's weird because I found one in my dining area on the floor. Lived here for 5 years and I don't know where it came from. What? I found it in my front garden a few years ago. Okay, you know, like that could be like an animal tooth or something. But this person found one in their kitchen sink, a human molar, and it just keeps going. I thought I was crazy. I found one under my bed when I moved. 1 human molar, adult, laying plain as day. I found a gold tooth in my basement. It just keeps getting weirder. I just found a tooth sitting on my parents' table the other day and we have no idea where it came from. I found a tooth in my coat pocket. What is with this? What is what? So then naturally I searched people finding human teeth, right?
What you know about rolling down in the deep? And you.
So I found a tooth.
You found a tooth.
Yeah.
Where did you find the tooth?
In the bathroom rug.
Why are all these people finding human teeth? What do I do with this information? Like, this is crazy, right? That's crazy?
What if I told you there was a real place where you could travel back in time? Bold Street in Liverpool has been known for its time slips. And if you're just joining us, time slips are when you travel out of your timeline into the past or future. In 1996, an off-duty police officer was shopping with his wife on Bold Street when she went into Dylan's bookstore. Frank followed after her, but was almost struck by a car in the middle of the road. When he gathered his bearings and looked up, though, everything looked different, and Dylan's wasn't there. Instead, it was a store called Cripps. He went up and looked in the window, but didn't see any books on display. Instead, it was all women's clothing, hats, handbags, scarves. Except all of the clothing was very out of fashion, and not only that, but all of the people inside the store were dressed out of fashion. Old-timey clothes like it was the 40s or 50s. Suddenly, a young girl walks past him, still dressed in 90s clothes, and he chases after her into the store. When he gets inside, though, it's no longer the department store, it's back to being Dylan's books. He pulled the girl aside and asked if she saw what he saw, to which she replied that she thought that maybe it was a new department store, but when she went in, it had transformed back into a bookstore. He ended up telling his wife what happened, and she replied that Cripps was a department store in the 40s and 50s, but had gone out of business decades ago. So what do you think? Did this police officer and young girl time slip together? Follow along for more.
I came across a delicious glitch in the Matrix / time slip story for you, so let's get into it. I found the story on the 14 Times forum, and our original poster stayed anonymous, but back in the early 90s, he was about 18, 19 years old and was working in a summer job. Now in this job, him and his colleague used to take a work van and they would drive the same route every single day. So it was a stretch of road through a forest, completely straight, thick forest on either side. They did it every day, multiple times a day. So this one day, they are driving back to their work building through this straight stretch of road in the forest when they realise, shit, they're nearly out of gas. And they decide, look, we're going to keep going, see how far we get, and then if we need to call somebody, we'll call somebody. At the time, the van had long-wave radio, and they reach this stretch of road and the radio cuts out, stops working, a black spot. And on the right-hand side of the road, they notice that there's this shed, this corrugated iron, flat-roofed shed that they've never seen before, with a handwritten sign that just says gas. So they're like, weird, we've never seen this before, but also great. So the pair didn't really think that much of it. They were kind of like, oh, how weird is it that we've driven this road every day and we haven't seen this gas station before? But they thought because it was so mundane, so normal, they just didn't register it in their brain. So the original poster goes into this corrugated iron shed. I mean, clearly had never seen a horror film before in their life, because if I've learned anything, it's that I'm not going into any sort of corrugated iron shed, unless of course it is to get a warning that I'm going to die in the imminent future. But he goes in, he calls out hello. Eventually this little man in his 60s appears, and he's sort of short, he's round, he's wearing a pair of trousers held up by a pair of braces and a flannel shirt. He has these really thick Coke bottle glasses and like a Greek fisherman's hat. The original poster is like, well, I need to get some gas, and the guy seems quite put out by the whole thing. So he's fumbling around, getting this key, he's mumbling in Swedish. He goes out and he's sort of rocking from side to side, constantly watching the two men. And the two guys are like, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to us. So they fill up with gas, and as they're driving away, they look in the rearview mirror, and the man is standing on the side of the road, sort of waving both hands in the air at them. And they're like, that was such a strange encounter. By the time they get back to their workplace, the van is on its last legs. It's sputtering, it's smoking, things are not looking good. So the work mechanic reckons that they've either put petrol or diesel into the van when they shouldn't have, and he's like, right, we need to siphon it out. So they siphon it out, but what comes out is sweet and smells like turpentine. And the mechanic looks at it and he goes, well, this is wartime gasoline. Where did you get this? Wartime gasoline was basically this sort of crude concoction that was used during wartime when people didn't have enough fuel, and it wouldn't make your car run efficiently, but it would make your vehicle run. So the two guys say, well, we stopped at that gas station along the road, and the mechanic is like, what gas station? There's no gas station along that road. There never has been. An original poster described this moment as being like a bubble burst. The two friends, the two work colleagues were suddenly like, shit, we don't ever remember there being a gas station on that road. They went eventually, drove up and down the road. There was no sign of the gas station, no sign that there ever had been a gas station there. And in later life, the original poster was still really perturbed by this whole story, and he did some research. There never was a gas station there. But one of the really amazing things about this story is that he physically kept the receipt. This strange man in this strange gas station had handwritten a receipt and given it to him, and he had put it into his wallet. So he knew that he had physically been there. That fuel was put into the van somehow. But there was no evidence of there ever being a gas station there. So was it a glitch in the matrix? Was it a time slip? Was it a step into an alternate universe? Why did the radios black out on that stretch of road? Who knows? Did you know that these two women were at the centre of one of the most famous time slips? In 1911, Anne Elizabeth Moberly and Eleanor Frances Jourdain published a book called The Adventure, in which they highlighted this crazy time slip that happened to them while they were visiting the Palace of Versailles in Paris. Now, these two women were well-respected English academics. They were on holidays together because they were trying to decide whether or not they would work well together in a professional capacity. And during this holiday, they decided to visit the Palace of Versailles. I'm going to say it here now. Excuse my pronunciation, okay? I'm very clearly not French. So it was the 10th of August 1901, and the two women are visiting the Palace of Versailles. Fundamentally, they're pretty disappointed with the Palace of Versailles. They're like, oh, it's not as great as I thought it was going to be. As they're bopping around the grounds of Versailles, they get a little bit lost and they take this little laneway. And Moberly sees this woman who is hanging out of a window, like, you know, shaking out a white cloth. And she wonders why Jourdain doesn't ask this woman for directions, because her French is fundamentally better. It was only later, when the women compared their experiences, that they realised that Moberly saw this woman, but Jourdain did not see this woman. She didn't see her at all. Now that, of course, could just be an oversight. So as they're walking along, Jourdain wrote down that she started to see like farm implements that were kind of littered around the place that looked really old-fashioned. They're still walking along, still lost, when two men walk towards them. And those men are wearing long greyish-green coats with small three-cornered hats. And both Moberly and Jourdain are like, oh, those are strange outfits, but they assume that they're gardeners or groundskeepers. So they stop and ask the men for directions. The men speak to the women in a tone that the women described as casual and mechanical, whatever that means. They continue strolling along and they see like a little cottage, and outside of this little cottage is a young teenage girl and what they assume to be her mother, and the young teenage girl is passing a jug to her mother, and they realise that these women are dressed in kind of really old-fashioned clothes. As they continue their walk, they feel the atmosphere change all around them. They're suddenly both like assailed with feelings of loneliness and depression, and they see a man sitting near a kiosk. Moberly described this man as exuding evil. She described him as being sallow-skinned, he had an odious expression, his face was pockmarked and scarred and rough, and she was genuinely taken aback by how negative she felt in his presence. But they were distracted by this handsome man who came towards them. He was wearing like a large brimmed Spanish hat and buckled shoes, and he was speaking French but in an accent, so they couldn't quite understand what he was saying. So they continue along until they get to something called the Petit Trianon, which is like a fancy country house that is built on the grounds of Versailles. And on the terrace there is a fair-haired, pretty woman, and she seems to be sketching something. Now, Moberly sees her, but again, Jourdain doesn't see her. But Jourdain did later say that as she approached the terrace, she felt as though there was somebody there. She felt the presence of another human, but she couldn't see anybody. Eventually, they made their way back to where they had started walking around Versailles, and everything was back to normal. They hopped in a carriage and away they went. They didn't discuss what had happened immediately, but a week later, Moberly asked Jourdain whether she thought the Petit Trianon was haunted, and Jourdain was like, fuck yes, that place is haunted, for sure. And it was 3 months later when they really discussed what had happened on their walk, and they realised that one of them had seen somebody and the other person hadn't, and then the other person would see somebody and the other person hadn't, and they couldn't quite figure out why this had happened to them. And then they were told something really strange by a French friend of theirs. So August the 10th was the date that they went on their walk. August the 10th also happened to be the last day of freedom for the French royal family. And legend has it that on August the 10th, every year, Marie Antoinette can be seen sitting on the terrace of the Petit Trianon, painting or sketching. And on that day, you can also see servants and workers and other members of the family pottering about Versailles, going about their business. At this point, Moberly and Jourdain were like, I think something weird happened to us when we went on that walk. So they started to research the things that they had seen extensively. They believed that the woman that they saw sketching on the terrace was indeed Marie Antoinette herself. They also believed that the man that they saw that kind of imbued this evil vibe was a man that was called the Comte de Vaudreuil. Now, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, but he was this courtier and Marie Antoinette apparently hated him. He was not a good guy. He had sallow skin and pockmarked skin in real life. Later, Moberly and Jourdain went to see some traditional French theatre, and they realised that the costumes of some of the extras were identical to the outfits that were worn by the men that they thought were gardeners. They also believed that the farm implements that they saw littered around the grounds were implements that were in use at the time of the Revolution. And not only that, but the layout and the buildings that they described seeing seemed to be from the time of the Revolution too. Now, there are lots of people that dispute this and argue that this is a case of two women who felt they had a strange experience and then researched it, and their memories were informed by the research that they did afterwards. There was also an argument that they were lesbians and therefore couldn't be trusted. Famously, the T in LGBT stands for time slips, because lesbians are forever lying about time slips. It's really hard to do this story justice in a singular video, but if you want to hear the whole story, you can listen to episode number 238 of my podcast, Real Life Ghost Stories. It's entitled Time Slips. And I mean, it doesn't just end there. Like, they did go back to Versailles. They went back a number of times and had other weird things that happened to them. So if that's your bag, if you like lesbians and time slips, then maybe go and listen to this episode.
So a month or two ago, my boyfriend and I were on a walk and we came across this treehouse, okay? I've lived in the same house my entire life, so for 20 years. I've walked in this area a million times, I've taken pictures here, and I've never seen this treehouse before. I brought it up to my parents, they've never seen the treehouse. So we were like, what the heck? And we go up to the treehouse, we start like poking around. Whoever's treehouse this is, like, didn't want people in it, I guess. The rope ladder was like thrown up into it, so my boyfriend had to climb up to pull the rope ladder down for us to climb up in it and like poke around. I don't want to say the treehouse looks 50 years old, but it's definitely not new. Like, I wouldn't have seen it before if it was here. Someone in my family would have seen it. The wood is kind of rotted and there's old, freaky, spooky toys on the floor. Like the beheaded doll in the middle of the floor. There's also like rusty tin boxes and stuff. It was just a spooky vibe, you know, never seen this thing. It's full of old, like dirty, freaky toys. So I make the joke like, LOL, what if we're in a horror movie, like we're the only ones who can see the treehouse and it just disappears, like we come back and it's gone. The treehouse is not there. I immediately called my dad. I'm like, remember that time I told you about that? And he was like, yeah, but I never went and looked at it. So no one has seen this treehouse except my boyfriend and I. So anyway, here is the location. That is what it looked like. And I'm fixing to go show you that spot right now. So this is where it was. It would have been between these two trees right here. In this video, you can see where it's wedged between the trees. I would have set my phone like right about here to take that video. And as you can see, there's not a treehouse. The only logical thing I can think of is someone built a treehouse with old dirty wood and then filled it with old dirty toys and then tore it down. But I think this is public land, so who would do that? Like, the city wouldn't do. If you've seen the treehouse, please message me.
What the fuck? She posted that on Friday the 13th, by the way. And I got that video sent to me so many times. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's a freaky glitch of the Matrix. She literally said that she's lived there for 20 years and has never once seen this treehouse. And the only people who did see the treehouse were her and her boyfriend. She told her family and her friends they never saw this treehouse. And then when she went back, the treehouse was gone. That's fucking creepy, you guys. There's been some weird glitches. I also want to show you this. Where does the guy in the red come from? Look at over here. Let's play it again. I've watched this so many times, and in the comments, people are like, I have no idea. Where did he come from? He just pops up out of the blue. Anyway, I think our Matrix is glitching, or we're entering alternate universes. I mean, CERN did get turned back on, so some weird shit is happening. And we're at the end of the disintegration process, which means that anything that has happened in the past can happen again. So nothing should surprise us anymore.
Top 10 glitches in the Matrix from my comments section, part 9. Get ready, because these are really weird. I once went to pick up a book I let my sister borrow. The bookmark she also borrowed fell to the floor when I picked up the book. And when I went to pick it up, it was completely gone. Went home and it was sitting on my coffee table. Driving to work when suddenly a voice shouted, "Put your seatbelt on now!" I did it immediately, and when I did, my right front tire blew into pieces. I was alone in the car and the belt saved me. I was walking my 8-year-old daughter home from school and crossed the street near the house. Halfway across, it was blurry and confusing for a moment, and then we were on a corner far from home. We looked at each other in silence for a moment, and she said, "Dad, I think we just teleported." We walked and talked about it. We both had clear memories of passing landmarks before the portal shift. One time, I was driving and wandering through back roads with some friends at night. We went down this dirt path, and at the end of the road, there was this legit stereotypical Scooby-Doo type abandoned house, so we get kind of spooked and turn around. When we left, the road looked different, and after like 10 minutes of driving away, we ended up back at the end of the road where the house was. Still can't explain it. When my children were small, I was sitting impatiently at a railroad crossing with no gate, but the lights were flashing. I decided to go across the tracks because I didn't see any train. Suddenly, I felt an invisible arm across my chest and full pressure on my foot on the brake. I sort of zoned out, and in an instant, a very high-speed passenger train flew by. No way I would have made it that night. I brought my earbuds to a scout event. I put them in an extra pair of socks I was bringing so my mom wouldn't see them. I didn't use them and kept them in the sock the whole time. When I came back home, I only had the case, but couldn't find the earbuds anywhere. A few weeks go by, and I see them sitting on my driveway. Alright, so I've read a few stories now about lost items being returned on driveways, so I'm guessing we have an interdimensional mailman type being that's just returning glitched out objects. Moving on. My brother lost his combination lock for his locker at home, and we looked everywhere for it for months. One day, he had a dream that he had found it, and the next day, he looked where he had found it in the dream, and lo and behold, the combination lock was in the toy box, right at the top. And we had looked there many times before because we play with those toys often. When I was in high school, I'd sit in the front seat passenger side beside the driver because of bullies. I was doing this for many months, and the bus driver never told me to wear my seatbelt. One day, I get on the bus, and the driver turns to me and says, "Put on your seatbelt." It was strange, but I did it. A whole lot later, a car drove into the side of the bus. That seatbelt kept me from being flung from the vehicle. Why is it so hard to put your seatbelt on? Just wear your seatbelt. You're supposed to. I mean, I get it if it's a bus, because buses don't really have seatbelts. So, if you have one, wear one. One night, I woke up because I heard a loud bang. I turned my light on and my metal water bottle was gone. I sleep with my door and windows locked. I looked everywhere, under my bed, in my drawers, etc. I left my room to check downstairs, and when I came back, my water bottle was on the bedside table. And at number 10. Okay, my glitch in the Matrix was me and my cousin were living together with my mom, and we stayed up one night later talking, and I had a window right above my bed. Out the window is a small field and an abandoned gas station on the other side. The field had a tree in the middle. We looked out the window. Me and her both watched a large plane crash into the field, into the tree. No sound, no people, but we both saw it crash and burst into flames. We closed the curtain and then reopened it, and nothing was there. Even when we went outside the next day to that exact spot, we found nothing. All right, timelines must just be mashing together, because how do you explain any of that? We need some explanations. Like now.
That plane one was definitely weird. My biggest thing was like, he said something like, always put your seatbelt on. It's crazy because like in a normal car, you always have to have your seatbelt on. And now even in like some parts of the America, you have to have it on in the back seat. But in a school bus, there's like 1,000 kids, no seatbelt anywhere. So I'm just like, dude.
I don't even know how to say this, but I experienced a glitch in the Matrix funeral edition. And honestly, this is probably one of the craziest, most unexplainable events in my entire life. I am losing sleep over it. So I'm asking somebody to please take notes and help me understand this, because like, I literally just can't.
Sometimes this little reality of ours glitches out, and people call these experiences glitches in the Matrix. There's nothing I love more than scrolling through TikTok and hearing people's glitch in the Matrix stories. So today I'm sharing my favorites with all of you. Enjoy and keep the lights on.
So 2 months ago, I make funeral arrangements with the family. They have a cremation and they order 50 prayer cards. 50 prayer cards. Now the cards they picked out were so unique, so rare, so beautiful. I'd never even seen them before, don't carry them. I had to order them custom made from a third-party vendor, in which I did. They mailed them to me. Now I held on to those prayer cards and the cremated remains for about 2 months, until last week, on Friday, when the family called because they wanted to pick them up. So they come in, they pick them up. I'm like, oh, when are you having your service? They said they're going to do something on Sunday, which is in 2 days. I was like, oh, that's really nice. Where are you having it? They were like, we haven't decided it yet. You know, Aunt Ida was really old and she kind of outlived all of her friends, so we'll figure it out. I'm like, great. You know, I hope it's beautiful and so on and so forth. I didn't go, wasn't invited, didn't keep in touch, whatever. Now Monday rolls around, okay? So that was Friday, now we're on Monday. And I get a message from a restaurant who had called and they were asking why we mailed them prayer cards. I didn't mail any restaurant prayer cards. Like, what is this about? I call them back. I'm like, why do you think I mailed you prayer cards? She was like, because your ad is on them. You know, we put the funeral home ad on the prayer cards. I was like, no, I didn't mail you anything. What is the return address on the envelope? She said there was none. I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't know. I was like, what is the name of the deceased? You know, she says it's Aunt Ida. I was like, well, that's weird. I was like, I gave the family those cards on Friday. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they mailed them to you. Like maybe I thought maybe they didn't have their service on Sunday. I don't really know. I just know I didn't do it. So I was like, they'll figure it out. Later that day, I get a phone call from the daughter of Aunt Ida. She's like, Melissa, why did you mail the restaurant prayer cards? I was like, I didn't. It's like, I talked to the restaurant. I explained her the same thing I explained to you. She was like, how did you know we went to that restaurant? I was like, I didn't know you went there. I didn't know anything. She said, yeah, we went there yesterday, which was Sunday. And I said, did you have the prayer cards that I gave you? She said, yeah, 50 of them. She said that she handed some out. She even had a few extra. I was like, okay, that's weird. I said, you know, when you go to the restaurant and pick up those prayer cards that were mailed to you, can you give me a call? Because I'm thinking the prayer cards have to be different. Maybe like a friend or something found out that was the restaurant, ordered them, they came late. I don't know, but there had to be a reasonable explanation. Well, she goes and she gets them and she calls me. And the prayer cards, the custom prayer cards that I had ordered from a third-party company, they were exactly the same, identical. Ad on it and everything. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. I'm like, return address? She said no. But the post, you know, like when it goes to the post office, was a zip code that wasn't near either of us. So I was like, or the company I ordered it from, like totally different county. I was like, this is really weird. So we were just like, wow, unexplainable. But I don't let things go. So I called the company because now I'm thinking maybe there is a chance that like, I don't know, somebody in the office ordered it and like somehow magically knew the restaurant and mailed them, like that would be crazy, but there's gotta be some kind of reasonable explanation that there is more than 50 identical prayer cards, right? Well, here's what happens.
Right, so yeah, you got 50 the last time. And there was never a reorder put in? No, there was not.
Long pause.
Okay. You know,
so mean.
Can I just tell you something really quick?
So if you follow me, you understand that only 50 prayer cards were ever ordered. Custom prayer cards were ever ordered. Family picked them up on Friday. They had their celebration on Sunday. They handed some out. They had a few extra. Monday morning rolls around and there is 50 identical prayer cards that show up to the restaurant that they only chose on Saturday night. She literally has more than 50 prayer cards in her possession. And to be honest, they didn't need an additional 50 prayer cards. Me and Ida's daughter have literally exhausted any, even the wildest, craziest reason how this could happen. It's impossible. Make it make sense. Mwah!
I cannot make sense. Still, what happened this morning? Okay, so I'm out of town, staying at a hotel because I'm here for a work function. But our meetings start at 10 a.m. It's 7:10 this morning. My alarm goes off. I'm like, I need a couple more minutes. I put my phone down. I roll back over. All of a sudden, I can feel my phone in my hand. Like almost as if it was placed in my hand. You know? I'm like, the fuck? So I roll over. My phone is, in fact, in my hand. I know. I did. I click the side of my phone. It says 11:30. Bitch, I jump out of bed so fast. So fast. And I look like one of those cartoon characters that are like getting pinged, like bing, bing, because I have no idea what to do with myself. Immediately, give the manager a call. And he's like, hi, Winnie, good morning. And I'm like, good morning. He goes, hey, you good? And I was like, well, it's 11:30, and I'm not there. He goes, Winnie, you know, you're early as usual, because I always arrive early. This is 7:30 in the morning. I thought this man has even left his house. He's having breakfast with his family. And then he proceeds to tell me, like, the time of the day of the week. And I'm like, like, I'm looking at my phone, my guy. It says 11:30. What? There's another person here for the same function, so I run to the window, and I look, and I see their car, and I'm like, well, there's no way they're late, too. Anyway, I hang up, I sit down, and I'm, like, trying to collect my thoughts. Like, what? Mind you, while we're on the phone, I take a screenshot. Because I'm like, I'm looking at 11:30. Take a screenshot. After I sit down, I can't log back into my phone. It will not let me. So I turn it off. When I go to squeeze my phone to turn it back on, it falls on the floor face down. I lean down near my phone, pick it back up, and it's on. Like, not turning on, whatever. It's on. And it says 7:30. I log into my phone, immediately go to my pictures, no screenshot. Like, is this a traumatic event? Absolutely not. Does it not make any fucking sense? Absolutely. And I don't accept this. What happened?
Stay spooky, friends.
Proof that we live in a simulation. I have literally found my simulation twin. Like, we were cut from the same cloth, made from the same template, whatever you want to call it, because she is living my life out in California.
Now, this video comes from Julia Wang HTX, and she has a simulation twin. There's really just no other way to put it. And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, so you have someone in your life who lives an incredibly similar life to you. But just listen to these coincidences between her and her simulation twin, because I'm telling you, by the end of this, I was like, oh, you have a simulation twin.
Some background info. So I live in Houston, Texas. My simulation twin, her name is Caroline. She lives in California, and we've known each other for a while because we both grew up in Dallas, and so we have a lot of mutual friends. But it wasn't until recently where we discovered how similar and how eerily similar our lives are. So this is my family right here. I'm actually Korean, and I'm married to a Taiwanese man, and he is a tech entrepreneur. He started several tech companies, and he develops software. So our kids, we have 3 kids. They're obviously half Taiwanese, half Korean. I have Cameron. She is the oldest. She's 8 years old. Jordan, he is my middle child. And then my son, Atlas, he is 11 weeks old. So this is Caroline's beautiful family, and Caroline is Korean like I am, and she's also married to a Taiwanese man who happens to be in tech, and a lot of Asians are in tech, so that's not that big of a deal. But she has 3 kids, and her oldest is a girl, and then it's followed by 2 boys, just like me. And the age difference between her kids are the same as mine. So her daughter is named Charlotte. My daughter is named Cameron. Her middle son is named Jacob. My son is named Jordan. So yeah, it's not the same name, but it starts with the same letter. And then her youngest is named Chance. And while my son is named Atlas, she actually messaged me saying that Atlas was one of the names that they were considering because her son, her middle son, apparently likes maps a lot. And Atlas is not like a common name. Like no one I know is named Atlas. So the fact that she was considering that name is crazy. So we're both the oldest in our family. I have a sister, she has a brother. So my sister Nina, she went to Pratt Art School in New York. If you know Pratt, it's like a very small, hard to get into art school in New York. And her brother went to Pratt. So my husband is the only child, the golden son, and he unfortunately lost his father to cancer a couple of years ago. And my simulation twin, her husband is also the only child, and he lost his mother to cancer the same year. And we both drive a minivan, and not only just a minivan, but we drive the Toyota Pacifica hybrid minivan. And what's crazy is like, I actually got this minivan as part of a collab with Driveway. So the fact that she owns that is crazy. To me, this is not a coincidence. Like, we have way too many similarities and very specific similarities. And I really feel like we were like made from the same template, character template for this simulation. But I don't know, call me crazy. What do you guys think?
How crazy is that? The same kids. The kids were what really got me. They both had a daughter and then 2 sons, and the first 2 kids for both of them had the same first letter of their names, and then their babies were almost named the exact same thing. It's literally almost like Julia can get a glimpse into an alternate reality, one where she doesn't live where she does, but she's instead gallivanting off in California, but also not, because they live such similar lives. They have such a similar story. I don't know. This one was kind of sweet to me though. I think I'd like having a simulation twin so I could just like peek in and see like an alternate version of my life.
Simulation twin. I don't know. I feel like they just had like a very close situation in life. I mean, they say there's no coincidences, but that situation kind of seems like a coincidence to me.
You guys, something really weird just happened to me and I'm kind of freaked out. Like, just listen.
This poster had a crazy time glitch that I just can't explain. So our poster, the librarian, she works at a Barnes and Noble, and she's just working earlier on this day when she sees one of her coworkers walking out, and she's like, "Are you heading out for the day?" And the coworker says yes. And our poster looks down at her analog watch. Remember this, it's an analog watch on her wrist. And it says that it is 1:58 and she's clocking out at 2. So she tells her coworker, "I'm clocking out in 2 minutes." And that's where this glitch in the Matrix begins.
So then I went to go clock out and a customer stopped me and they were like, "Can you help me?" So I was like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah. What are you looking for?" So then I walked all the way to the back to the kids section, from the front of the store to the back, after talking to a customer, after talking to my coworker, and giving her a hug. So I go to like type in what the customer is looking for. Sorry, you guys, I'm like really freaked out. I went to type in what the customer was looking for and I looked at my clock because I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be off. It was still 1:58. It was still 1:58.
So she's gonna talk about more like why this is so crazy, but I just want you to remember, she looks down at her watch, realizes it's 1:58. She walks like back and forth in the store, talks to a customer, does all of this stuff, goes to the computer, and it says 1:58. And my first thought was maybe your watch was slow, whatever, but she looks down at her watch and it's still 1:58.
So I was so deeply unsettled. I was like, no. And I was like, did my watch stop? Did my watch stop? So then I looked on the computer terminal and it said 1:58 too. So I remember saying out loud, I was like, this is weird. This is really weird. So then I kept staring at my watch. And then a lady came over to me, she talked to me and I typed something else in. And then I looked at my watch again and it finally said 1:59. You guys, my internal clock is pretty good. I know more than 1 minute passed for me to do all of that. There's no way that it remained 158 to 158. And then I sat there looking at my clock and it was still 158. Y'all, there's no way. Like, did time stop? Did anybody else experience something like this around this time? It takes me about a minute to walk from the front to the back in a meandering style, let alone talk to a customer, talk to a coworker, and look something up and walk. It was 158 for like 2 to 3 minutes. That's what I'm saying to you guys. It was 158 for like 2 to 3 minutes when it should not have been 158. Anyways, y'all, I am not okay. Because that was weird. By the way, it's a digital watch. It's not analog. The computer terminal said the same thing.
I'm sorry, but when you work retail, I feel like you just know every single minute that passes by. And this poster in particular, the reason this story is so fascinating to me is that she seems so genuinely rattled by it. Look, could she have maybe misread her watch? I guess so. That would pretty much be the only logical explanation here if she's positive that all of these things took more than a minute, which it just, again, sounds like logically it would, but I don't know. She seems so freaked out by it, and I think that freaks me out more. This isn't the kind of content that this poster makes, like, at all, by the way. So I really want to know what you guys think. Did she experience a time glitch where time just stood still for a full minute? Or was this something else? And if it was something else, what was it?
In my head, I feel like it could be one of like 3 things. The first one, the time could have been 153, and then she accidentally read it as 158. The second one is it could have been 156, and she read it as 158. And the third one is there was some sort of glitch that happened, and it wasn't necessarily just like a glitch in the matrix. It was like a glitch on her watch or a glitch of like her internal clock. I don't really think, like, I don't know, that one's kind of feel like controversial because like there's too much things and variables that could have happened that made her think that like the time froze, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe.